Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whichever location you are watching this video. A very warm welcome to Questpond channel. And what are we doing in this video? In this video, we're going to go and learn Azure from basics, from scratch, step by step, lesson by lesson, chapter by chapter, right? We'll move towards, from the basics, we'll move towards the advanced level, right? So you can see on the screen, I'm flashing. We're going to go and cover 15 chapters. And in these 15 chapters, there are 3 super duper hands-on labs, right? And if this is your first step into the Azure learning journey, then you are at the right video. Complete these 2 hours, you will thank me. So today is my birthday, right? And as it is my birthday, I want to give you a super useful gift. One is I'm going to go and teach you Azure. Just be with me for this coming 2 hours, and 1001% guarantee you will learn Azure, right? But also there is one more thing called as Azure DevOps, which is equally very important, creating CI/CD, writing a YAML file, creating pipeline, doing automation and build and unit testing and so on, right? So for that, I'm giving my course, my Azure DevOps course for free, right? For free. And how is it free? What you have to do is that you have to take this video link, this YouTube video link, and share it on your LinkedIn account and tag my ID. You can see my ID, which I'm flashing on the screen, right? And send this, this shared link to questpond@questpond.com, and I'll give you this complete course for free for your lifetime. Isn't it a wonderful gift, right? So share that video and get full access to Azure DevOps. Only to Azure DevOps, not to Azure, huh? For this course, this 2 hours is free, and the coming course, we will put down the link, where the course is, right? But the Azure DevOps, we are giving out free. Now, this is part 1 of Azure lesson, something more free, right? Okay, let me give you more things free out here, right? I really love this. So this is the Azure tutorial. This is the part 1, the lab 1. After this, we're going to have lab 2, part 2, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, right? So on YouTube, I have put the first lesson for free, and I want to put the second lesson for free as well. What I want is, I just want that you give me 2,000 likes. I have 200K subscribers, guys. So I think 2,000 likes is nothing, right? Because we as teachers, we want to see that are our courses really useful? Do developers really like our course, right? So go ahead. If you go and hit the like button, and if I cross 2,000 likes, this is a promise, a gentleman's promise, a developer's promise to everyone, right? If I cross 2,000 likes, I will put my second lab also for free. And when I cross my 2,000 likes, I will put that second lab for free in the comments out there, right? So go ahead and do this activity as well. And let us try to see that if we can make the whole course free on YouTube. So let us get started with the course. So you can see here we have 15 chapters out here. We'll start with first with introduction. The introduction is what we are now going through, right? And after that, we'll understand why cloud. We will understand these concepts like scalability, self-service, rental model, Opex versus Capex. In chapter 4, we'll go and see how to create an Azure account and how to use the free credit limit. We'll talk about IAAS, PAAS, and SAAS. And after that, we'll go and create Azure virtual machines. When we're creating Azure virtual machines, we will look into a concept called as resource groups, right? Then chapter 9, we'll focus on private, public, and hybrid cloud. Chapter 10, we will look at the infrastructure topology, the regions, the areas, and zones. And then chapter 11, we have the second lab, right? Remember, here we have theory and labs, and that's how I've structured the lesson. So in lab 2 and chapter 11, I will say rather, we'll do the demo of availability zones, right? So if you say you want to have high availability, then we use availability zones. And chapter 12, we'll focus on, 4 or 5 important concepts like DR, high availability, FT, fault tolerance, scalability, and elasticity. And chapter 13, we are going to have a super duper lab 3, which is demo of scalability, right? Scalability and elasticity. And chapter 14, what we'll do is that whatever we have learned out here, we will go and we will give we'll take 10 questions, from AZ 900 certification, and we will see that whatever we have learned, and, can we go ahead and answer these questions? So that will help us to validate that this course is useful or not, right? And chapter 15, we'll talk about the next topics, what we'll cover in Azure, right? So with all that, let us get started with chapter 2. This is chapter 1, the introduction, which I did now. Chapter 2, let us start with why cloud. So before we proceed, right, let us try to understand why cloud. Why Azure Cloud? Why AWS Cloud? Why not use something like GoDaddy, Bluehost, HostGator, HostLinger? There are many websites out there, which provides websites. They can provide you web hosting. They can provide you VPS. They can provide you virtual machines. So why cloud? And for that, in my mind, three things comes up, and I call it as the 3S. The first one is scalability. The second one is self-service. And the third one is spend as you go, pay as you go, subscription as you go, right? Whatever, subscribe as you go, right? So 3S, let us try to understand all the 3S. I'll be showing you some screenshots out there. First one, scalability. Second one, self-service. And the third one, spend as you go, pay as you go. So let us go ahead and try to understand the first S, which is scalability. So you can see here, this is my Azure portal out here. Remember, I will show you how to get registered on Azure website. That is my next lecture, which will come in, right? But for now, I have just opened my Azure portal out here so that I can show you the difference, right? And this is GoDaddy. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. I have nothing against GoDaddy, right? This website could have been Bluehost. This website could have been something else, right? I love GoDaddy. The only thing is that I'm trying to put here from a comparison perspective, right? So I go to GoDaddy out here. I say, okay, I want to go to GoDaddy, and I say, I want to go and use a virtual machine, a VPS, right? And I see lots of options out here: 1 CPU, 2 GB RAM, 2 CPU, 4 GB RAM, and so on, right? And let us say I take the cheapest one out here. Now assume I'm using this virtual machine for a workload of 10 users. So I'll say, okay, I have just 10 users for now, 2 GB RAM, I think I should be able to do it, right? I'll say configure my server. I go ahead, I get this machine, good. But then let's say if my number of users increase suddenly, so I'm on this machine, right? And then someone goes and something becomes viral out there, right? So let's say that I make some video. I hope that this video also goes viral. So somebody makes a video of my website, he puts it out there, it's viral, and suddenly my workload has increased. And now I have to go and send a mail. I don't know. I have to go and how do I go and change this? How do I go and upgrade this? Is it automatic? It is not automatic, right? That is my main concern out here, right? But when you go to Azure, and you say, okay, I want to take a virtual machine out here. So here's a virtual machine. And then you say, I want to go and create a virtual machine, Azure virtual machine out here. Now here, what you can do is, I'll just remember, we are going to go and see virtual machines step by step in the coming classes, right? But what I can do now here is that I can go ahead and say, for example, I can say that a virtual machine set. Okay, I'll say here, how about I want to go and use virtual machines, but there is a high possibility that my load can increase. So you can see here, I'll say I want auto scaling. Look at it. I'll say that. So I want auto scaling, and I want auto scaling something like this. I want that as soon as, so by default, I want, let us say 2 virtual machines or 1 virtual machine by default, right? And whatever it is by default, let us say I want 2 virtual machines out here. And then I will say, once my CPU threshold goes above 80%, increase 1 virtual machine automatically. Look at that, on that screen I'm highlighting, automatically. Scalability. And let me put one more word out there, automatic scalability. So in case of other websites, I have to send a mail, I have to call them, I don't know if they have some proper panel out there where I can do that, I don't know, right? But here I can do it. So the first point here is scalability, and let me add a word out there, automatic scalability. The other S which we discussed was self-service. In case of GoDaddy or something out here, I have to send a mail, I have to talk to them, and all that, right? But here, what I can do is I don't have to talk to anyone, right? I'll say, okay, what do I want, right? I want a virtual machine, I get it. I want to go and scale up that, everything I can do it myself. In this case, there are many things I can't do myself, right? And the second important point is, when I look at GoDaddy, right, it does not have that variety of service. For example, if you say you want to do web hosting, yes, there is web hosting. If you say you want a VPS, yes, there is there. If you want I'll say, okay, can I go and create my own network? Let's say I want to just create a network, that's it. Nothing out here. But in case of Azure, I can go and say, okay, I want to create a virtual network. It is like a shopping basket. Okay, can I get Oracle? Oh, why not? Go ahead, search for Oracle. There it is. okay, can I go and get, let's say, can I get some kind of, I don't know, Tally? Like Tally is a, how do you say, Tally is an application which is used, for accounting. There it is. So what I'm saying is, if you look at the services, provided by Azure, is way beyond website and hosting. Remember that when you're going to cloud, and if you're only thinking, oh, like I want to just host a website, oh, I want to only do virtual machine, then must be probably cloud is not for you, right? You have to think about scalability. You have to think about self-service. And the last S which we talked about is spend as you go, pay as you go, consumption-based model, Opex-based model, right? Let me explain all these words, right? So spend as you go means, like, for example, here I can go ahead and create a virtual machine, or I can go and I can create a website. I want to host an app service. I create it, I use it, I can delete it. That's it. He will only charge me for what I use. But in this case, if you see, for example, like if I say, okay, choose a Linux operating system, I'm just saying, first thing, the number of services are very less, right? When you're talking about GoDaddy and other things, right? But still, but let's say if I go out here and say, okay, I go here and I say I want to pay the money. The first thing you can see, like, first thing, if you see here, you can see that the way it's not something I can use for an hour. Let's say you can see here, it starts from a month. That means I have to pay upfront 30 days at least. And you can see there are other configurations like 48 months and 36 months. But can I just take this virtual machine for 1 hour? Not possible out here. So that means what I'm saying is that GoDaddy is more of a Capex based model. Means you have to go and buy upfront, right? While in case of Azure or AWS or any cloud out there, right, it is pay as you go. You can use the service. Once you use the service, you can right away go here and say, delete this. Done. You will not be billed for it, right? Pay as you go, consumption based model. So for example, you want to go and say, okay, let me get a 16 GB RAM server. I want to do some heavy load testing, and then I don't want it. You can go and do this, right? And remember, and because of this, there are different other benefits, right? The first biggest benefit which the management loves to hear about is that this is an Opex based model. Opex means I'm only paying for the operations, how much I'm using. In case of when you're using a machine on your premise, right, or if you're going and if you're taking something from GoDaddy or some other place, right, what happens is you have to own that machine. You have to make sure that the machine is maintained by someone, right? So you have Capex, capital expenditure. Capex means capital expenditure, upfront money. And also you have to do Opex. You have to have some hardware person looking after it. It is like, saying that, okay, you want to hire your own car, you want to buy your own car, you want to own your own car, or do you want to go for a consumption based model, like a subscription based model like Ola or Uber? So when you take an Ola, Uber, you sit in the car, you drive, done. You pay the money, tick, right? In case when you say own your own car, you have to buy again the parking, you have to do this, you have to do all that, right? So this is the third big difference, a very big difference. The GoDaddy over here is like a Capex based model, right? You have to buy it upfront, but here it is pay as you go, spend as you go, subscribe as you go, right? So remember 3S, let me just put it again. First one, scalability, right? Automatic scalability. Second one, self-service. I would like to go here and buy anything what I want, right? And I want services beyond websites and virtual machines. And the last one is pay as you go, spend as you go. So now that we know why Azure and why Azure cloud or any cloud is different from normal website, we have seen all that things, right? Now let us go ahead and open up an Azure account. And so what I'll do is I'll switch off this camera out here. I will just focus on my computer so that I can show you where to go and get the Azure account, right? And also we'll see that how to utilize the free credit limit which is given by Azure. So in order to open up the Azure account, what you can do is that you can just Google Azure and you will see a list of links out here. And the best link where you can start from here, that is start your free account, right? So if you go to your start your free account, you will see that there is something called as try Azure for free, right? And pay as you go. Now the first important point to understand is that there is nothing free as such, right? But if you go and if you scroll below, what exactly is that free? Let us try to understand, right? So in that free, what happens is when you open up your account, you have to give your credit card. Now with this, don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged, because when you start using Azure, when you will start doing this tutorial, right, the amount of bill that will come will be very minuscule, right? Will be very minuscule, right? That is one point. The second point is this Azure free account means that what he will do is that in the coming 30 days, so once you go ahead, you register, right, and you give your credit card or whatever, right, he will give you a $200 USD credit. And I feel that this is more than enough to learn any feature of Azure. More than enough, right? If I'm not wrong, I think the max to max bill what you will get is not even $100, right? So this US $200 is credit, it's free, right, for you, so you can utilize till then. But remember that it has to be utilized within 30 days, right? And after that one you will get charged. And again, as I said, the charge is how much, believe me, it is like 100 rupees, 300 rupees, 500 rupees per month, right? So I think you shouldn't worry too much about it, right? So go ahead, Google, and you will say start your free account, right? And then say try Azure for free. Now this registration is pretty simple out here. There is nothing to show demo as such, so you can go ahead and you can say that yes, either if you have an email address, you can start using that. For example, I do have my email address, so I'll just use it. Okay, so I'll say next. Oh, sorry, create one, right? We can just say create one. Looks like you don't have account with us. Yes, I don't have account with you. I will give some password out here. Pretty much simple, right? And I'll say next. It will ask me for my birth date and so on, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and fill something over here. So next. He will send me a code out here. So you can see, really I will not be explaining these all things, because this is pretty simple thing out here. It will say next. It will say solve this puzzle. So okay, match this angle. Okay, fine. I think this angle is good. Say submit, right? So pretty much how you open up a Google account or any simple registration what you do online, right? Go ahead, but remember that you have to give your credit card out here, and once that is done, it will give you $200 credit access, right? And after that it will start charging you, and as I told you that the charge is quite less, right? So when you come out here, you will find that there is a big form which he will give you. Yeah, so there it is. So you have to go ahead. Remember, $200, which is approximately 13,300 rupees for the first 50 days is free. Go ahead, and down below you have to go ahead and add your credit card, right? Your card or whatever, identification by card. Once you go ahead, you register all this, right? What will happen is you will get access to the Azure portal like this. So you can see here portal.azure.com, you get access to it, and this means that you have access to the portal, right? So pretty simple. Go ahead, register yourself. Don't shy away from giving credit card. Why I'll tell you, for example, if you see here, this is my monthly bill which I've got, cost management and billing. And remember that my account I use left and right. I take a lot of trainings, so definitely the amount should be much more than what you guys have over there, right? What you guys will get, right? So if I see here, for example, this is pay as you go. Let's look at the last billed amount. Remember, again I'm repeating that I use Azure like anything. So you can see my spending rate is like 300 or 600 rupees per month, something, right? So if you see this, let me show you my billing period. Yeah, that's my billing period. That is for a month. This month I did not use it too much. Okay, I can just look at you can see my past invoices, right? So this is my past invoices. So you can see here, remember these 3,000 rupees bills, what you see out here, 2,000 rupees. This one, I have used it for my project. But while I was training, this is like 400 rupees or 20 rupees or, maximum it, so guys, don't shy away from using Azure, right? And as I've already told, right now the other bills what you see out here, the 5,000 rupees bills and 2,000 rupees bills, because I've used it for my project, but while I was learning it never exceeded even 300 400 rupees, right? So go ahead, register yourself and get access to portal.azure. This is the account out here. So now that we have the Azure account access, right, and also we know that cloud is all about pay as you go, right, scalability and so on. But when we say pay as you go, subscription based, right, in that also there are different levels. In other words, when you go to Azure cloud out there or any cloud out there, he will say, okay, pay as you go. What is the context? For example, the first level of pay as you go is called as IaaS, infrastructure as a service. The second level of pay as you go is platform as a service. And the third level of pay as you go is software as a service. So when you go to Azure out there and you say, okay, like I want to go and take a service, it will belong to one of these categories or belong to one of these levels. Now, I want to reinforce, or I want to just want your focus to be on this word as a service. Anywhere in IT industry, when you hear this word as a service, it says that, or it is like screaming and telling, or it is like reinforcing and telling that it is a rental model. It is a consumption based model. In other words, for example, when you say hotel service, you don't own the hotel. You don't go in the kitchen to cook food, right? You are just sitting out there saying, okay, bring me the food, I will eat it, I will pay the bill and go away. Or let us say you take a car rental, right? A car rental service. You don't say, I'm a car owner, right? You say car service, right? So you hire Uber or whatever it is, right? Ola, you pay for whatever is the ride, you don't own the car. So here also, when you say infrastructure as a service, you don't own the infrastructure, you are paying rent for it. When you say platform as a service, you are paying rent for it, consumption based model. Software as a service, you are paying for how much you use, right? So whenever you use this, you hear this word as a service, it implies that it is shared and it is a rental model. So let us start with infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure as a service means the metal part. So you want to go and own a computer on Azure or on cloud, right? Or you want to go and create a network, just the metal part, the CPU, the RAM, the hard disk. So that is called as infrastructure as a service. Platform as a service means the Azure will give you a UI or a platform, means you will say that, no, see, I don't want to own the metal. I don't want to go into computers, where is the server, what is what, right? So I want to go and create a website. You decide, which is the server at the back. You find out the server and do the hosting. So that means that he will provide you a platform, and on that platform you will provide all the details. For example, you want to host an ASP.NET application or a Java application. He will figure out which is the server, what is what, he will take care of it. Platform as a service. It is more from the developer's perspective. And the last one is for the end users, like common users out there. Software as a service. He'll say that I don't even want to get into your platform. I don't even want to get into your computer, right? I just want to use Excel. I want to use Word. I want to use PowerPoint. I want to use an accounting software. Like if you look at Excel, Word, PowerPoint, we have that Office 365, right? So that means this is where the end user comes in. He wants a very simple UI where he will put the credit card details. He will get the credentials, and he can start using the software, right? So the below part you think about is like more infrastructure, metal. The second part is the platform, right? So you have a kind of an abstraction, and through that, the Azure gives you that abstraction. He gives you the UI, and from there you go and say that I want this service. He will figure out the hardware, and the last one is for the end user software part, right? So now let us go and see on the Azure how this all three things look like, right? So for example, you can see here, this is my Azure portal out here, and when you get a login, right, you will see a lot of menus out here. Don't get distracted, right? Just go on the search, start from the search, right? So if I say, okay, I want to get the hardware, so that means that you are talking about virtual machines. Virtual machines, that means you get access to the RAM, you get access to the hardware and so on. This is infrastructure as a service. Network also becomes an infrastructure as a service, right? So here you get access to the actual machine. You will be able to see the desktop, you will be able to see, you will be able to create the folder, you will be able to install the software. You are responsible now for everything because you are owning the infrastructure, right? The second one is platform as a service. For example, you will say that, okay, I want to go ahead and host a website. So for that, we have something called as app service, right? So when you see an app service out here, and if you say, okay, I want to go and host a website, we will remember, we are going to go and see all of these demos out there, right? So here you can see now he has provided an abstraction. He has provided an UI. He says that, okay, now you don't have to deal with machine and all. Just tell me what is your runtime stack. I will go and figure out which is the machine. If it is, you are saying this is a Windows machine, you want to host on IAAS, I will take out a machine which has IAAS installed, which has SQL Server installed, which has this .NET runtime installed. I will do it everything for you. You don't have to worry. This is called as platform as a service, right? And the last one is software as a service. For example, somebody will say, okay, I want to go and use Tally. I don't want to get into anything, right? So Tally is an accounting software, right? So yes, go and use Tally, or must be Office 365, right? Somebody says, I want to go and use Excel. So actually, you cannot use Excel from here. Remember, you go through a different website out there for Office 365, right? So there's a different portal out there for Office 365. So that is software as a service. The user wants to just use Excel, Word, PowerPoint. He does not want to get into machines or framework or something, right? Now, don't be too pushy. Don't be too pushy saying that, okay, you don't have to be too pushy or too aware saying, okay, am I using infrastructure as a service? Am I using platform as a service? You don't have to be too pushy, right? When you're using a service, right? If you know that you are using infrastructure as a service, for example, if you're using virtual machines, right? And you know that I'm using infrastructure as a service, that means you are taking all the burden. You are taking the burden of backup. You are taking the burden of maintaining that machine and so on. As soon as you are saying, okay, I don't want to take that burden and I want to go and just use a platform app service. Now your burden, you have left it to Azure. You are saying that I don't want to worry about where is the software. You worry about the backup. I will just provide you the details, right? And the last one again, you don't even have to worry about anything, right? You just go ahead and use the software, right? So only thing, what it sends a signal to us is that how much responsibility are we taking? So the more down below at the IAAS level, you are taking the full responsibility. If you're at the platform level, you are taking must be 50% responsibility, right? And then at the top level, you are just using the software and you are not taking any responsibility. So don't be so pushy, don't be trying to say, okay, am I using IAAS? Am I using PAAS? No, you don't have to worry about it, right? But yes, if you're aware of it, you will come to know that how much responsibility you are taking. So now that we understood, all these three levels out here, right? Let us go and create our first resource on Azure. So let us start from infrastructure as a service. Let us create a virtual machine, right? So in the next lab, I'm going to go and switch off this camera and we'll focus on creating a virtual machine. And while we are creating the virtual machine, we will go through various Azure concepts. So once you are on the Azure portal out here, so you can see here I'm on the Azure portal, portal.azure.com. You will see at the left hand side there are list of services which are available, right? But for now, let us not get into that. Let us just hit the search bar out here and let us type here virtual machines, right? So you can see here this is the first service of Azure which we are using. Now please note that, as I've said previously also, you don't have to be too pushy saying that, okay, am I using infrastructure as a service or am I using software as a service, right? Only thing, you should know that if I'm going to go and select virtual machines out here, I am responsible for everything, right? So, or if I'm going to go and take a virtual network, which is again a IAAS, I'm responsible for everything, right? But if I'm going to go and take something like, let us say, app service, right? If I'm going to go and create a website out here, then here, this is a platform as a service, right? So here, I'm not responsible of the machines at the back. Azure will take place, right? And so on. Okay, so again, let's go back, virtual machines. Let us click on it and we'll say create a Azure virtual machine. So you can see out here, one is there is a Azure virtual machine, another one, there is another menu out here saying Azure virtual machine with some preset configuration. So at this moment, I don't want any preset configuration. I'm going to go and create from scratch. So create an Azure virtual machine. Then you come up with a screen out here where you have to go and fill certain things, right? And as you are filling these things, at the right hand side at the right hand side you can see there is an estimated monthly cost which comes up for this resource. So you can see here for this virtual machine he is charging something some amount out here, right? 7,000, right? For the hard disk he is charging something 1,600 and so on, right? Okay, so that is one part. We'll keep an eye on this right hand side as well, right? So the first thing out here is the subscription. So you can see here it is very much possible that inside one company there can be multiple subscriptions. Means they must have put multiple credit cards saying that okay, this credit card is for this division, this credit card is for this division, right? So just select the appropriate subscription what you want, right? After that you can see there is something here called as a resource group. So what exactly is a resource group? A resource group is nothing but it is collection of Azure items. It's collection of Azure entities. For example, you can see out here when I'm creating the virtual machine, one is there is a virtual machine, right? The image of the virtual machine, then you have the hard disk of it, we will also create some IP address for that and so on, right? So all these items will be then grouped. So for example, in a project, I'm just giving an example, projects will need, let's say, app service to host an application. Then because of that app service, probably you will use a firewall, or you will use a database, or you will use some load balancer. So what you would like to do is that for that project, you would like to put all these items into one logical unit so that you can manage them well, right? So that is termed as a resource group. So I'll go and create a resource group out here, and we will say that this is some project 123 resource group, right? RG. Now remember here also it is very important to have naming conventions, right? So now whatever naming convention you select, right? So you can use hyphens to make the naming conventions more meaningful. For example, I can say here, okay, you can use capitalization also, right? So UK hyphen, I will say, let us say this is a project. So UK hyphen project, which is, let's say, division is Mumbai. Okay, so a UK project which is getting which is outsourced in Mumbai or something, right? So in this way you can make more meaningful names. Don't create project names like 123 and ABC, right? It will just make your life hell afterwards, right? So I'll just say UK project Mumbai. The name of the virtual machine, I'll just make it as let us say this is the server out here, so I'll say this is an app server, right? So just give meaningful names out here. The next thing out here is that in which region you want to create it, right? You can see there is something called as which region out here, and there is something here called as availability zone. So we'll look into this availability zone, virtual machine and availability set later on. For now, just select no infrastructure redundancy, right? No infrastructure redundancy. I will come to this section later on. For now, just focus on doing the demo of virtual machine. And you can see there is a region out here saying that you want to go and select this, you want to create this virtual machines in US, or you want to select it, you want to create it in India, or where do you want to exactly create it, right? So for now what I'll do is I'll just select South India, right? And I will say no, I don't want any infrastructure, I don't want any redundancy out here, right? Redundancy means that you have a virtual machine of app server and exactly you want a same kind of a virtual machine running parallelly. So if there is any issues, you can go and you can start working on that virtual machine, right? So that's why I'm saying at this moment I don't want redundancy, right? I've selected a region out here, and the next thing is so it says that there is a standard basic level security, and there is so this one here, this is the security type, saying that do you want a basic security or do you want a security which is more for advanced attacks, right? So I'll just keep this second one out here. I think for security, guys, don't compromise, just you would pay something extra, but that should be okay, right? So just pay that extra money. And as I'm selecting things out here, you can see at the right hand side my cost would be increasing or decreasing, right? The next is that which operating system, which image do you want to use? So do you want to go and use Ubuntu server, or do you want to go and use a Windows server? So that's what the selection is. Now one very interesting thing which you would like to see out here is look at the cost at the right hand side. Okay, so if I go and if I select let us say Ubuntu, right? If I select the Ubuntu server out here, let me select, yeah, so there it is, Ubuntu server. When I select, right, look at the cost. The cost has has minimized. In the sense, if you look at this image cost, it has become 0. Why? Because Ubuntu server does not have a cost as such. It is open source, it is available for everyone, right? But if I go and select Windows server, right, you will see that I get a cost out here on the image, right? Why? Because this has a license cost. Windows server is not a free server, right? It has a license cost. For example, in case of Linux also, if I go and select, let us say, Red Hat. Now remember, the Windows server is 2700 or 2800 approximately, but if I go and select Red Hat out here, you will see that I would get some cost out here which is different, right? You can see Red Hat has a little bit of less cost as compared to Windows server, which is 1700 rupees, right? Now this is very, very essential to understand that in Azure, cost is everything. You cannot just say that I'm using pay-as-you-go and your cost is just hitting the accounts, right? So it's very essential to know that what are you know, why are you paying so much and what is the need of it, right? But for now, guys, I will just use the Windows Server data center, right? So what I'll do is I'll just use the Windows Server 2022 Azure Edition data center, right? So there it is, I've used it. Now you'll say, sir, why are you selecting the Windows Server? The Linux is free and so on. I understand it, right? But on the Questpond channel, most of the people who come to Questpond, right, most of them are Microsoft, right? Are Microsoft developers, right? And at the end of the day, I am also a Microsoft developer. So somewhere I am bent towards selecting the Microsoft products. But please, you can go ahead and you can select Linux as well. That shouldn't be a problem, right? So I have selected that x64 and you can see the VM architecture. Is it ARM64 and x64? I'll keep it as it is, right? Now next comes is the size. So you can see here there are different sizes out here. You can go and you can see all the size out here. So for example, there are size of D size, B size. At the left hand side you can see the sizes. So D series, B series and so on. If I'm not wrong, there is also something called as a free size also out here somewhere. I don't remember, but there are free Azure virtual machines also, right? If I'm not wrong, F size, yeah, F series, not exact, not this F series, but there are free sizes also, guys. I'm not seeing it over here. I don't know why. Must be I've selected the Windows server of that kind, 2022. If I select 2019, I think I will get the free service, right? But I would suggest that not to select the free service. Why? Because you already have that, already had that 13,000 rupees, right? Or, the X amount of credit limits with you, right? I would suggest to please use that credit limit, because if you select a free size, what happens is it would actually disable many features, right? So I would suggest to not select a free kind of a machine out there. Because you won't be able to run redundancy, you won't be able to practice virtual machine set and so on, right? So many features will be disabled out there. So what I'll do is I'll just go and select, let me select this, let me select a little bit higher here, 8 GB RAM, right? Let me select this. Okay, so I'm selecting this 8 GB RAM out here. Now you can see here it shows the cost. So 2 CPU standard D2 series. We'll come to this series, D1, D2, what these series are, we'll come to that later on. And 14,000 rupees per month. But remember that I'll be using this virtual machine must be for an hour. So he will not charge me 14,000 rupees. He will charge me something for the hours. Let us see what is that charge, right? So there it is. The next one is the username and password to log into the operating system, right? So I'll just give a name, username here and a password. Now, in order to connect to the virtual machine, right, hardwares out there or VMs, there is a protocol here called as RDP, the remote desktop protocol, right? So I'll say yes, this is the protocol I want to enable for now, and I will say allow. Do you want to allow the public to come to your virtual machine and connect? I'll say yes. So let there be a public IP address. So from the internet, anybody can come and connect to my virtual machine. But yes, he has to put here the username and password, right? If you select none, then that means that you have a different architecture of logging into the VM machine, right? So we'll discuss about that later on, but for now I just want to select this, allow the selected port, right? This last one is very interesting checkbox out here. Now you can see here for this image, at this moment I'm paying 6,000 rupees as the cost for the license, right? But let us say that you have taken the Windows license from offline. So you went to the Microsoft's Office and you have taken the license from there. Then what you can do is that you can say, yes, I want to use the Windows existing license. See, you can see here, look at that, look at the right hand side. When I'm selecting this becomes 0, right? So so this becomes 0. But remember that again, if you're going on cloud, right, then don't select these options, because why, if you want to tomorrow go and upgrade this license, right, then you have the Azure way of doing it. So if you're making it hybrid, saying that, okay, I'm going to buy something from offline and it should work on Azure, remember that then you are actually again going for the Capex model, because here now you are getting 6,000 rupees per month, right? There you have to upfront pay, must be 6,000 into 24 months, or must be, I don't know, or 3 years of license cost upfront, right? So just make sure that don't use such kind of cocktail and hybrid options when you're on cloud. But yes, if you just have that, something like that, use it. If you already paid it, then use it, right? So now this is the basic things we have filled about the virtual machine. The next is the hard disk, right? So what kind of hard disk your virtual machine should have. So let me go and select disk out here, right? So there it is. So now you can see here again the hard disk, one is the size of the hard disk, which we have already said it is 127 GB. Second one, do you want a SSD or do you want an HDD, right? Now SSD are mostly flash hard disk, right? They are best for production. They have a very fast startup time out there and so on, right? But if you say no, like this machine is going to be used only for audit data, or this machine is going to use only for R&D purpose, must be you can go and select just HDD out here, because it is for non-critical and infrequent. Why HDD? Because HDD does not boot up very fast. HDD hard disks are not flash drives, right? But the cost is less. You can see here, if I'm selecting premium SSD, look at the hard disk cost. It is showing me 1,400 rupees per month. This all is estimated per month. But if I go and select HDD, now watch that. If I go and select HDD, then the cost should reduce at least more than a half. So you can see now it is this, right? But for now, I want to just select premium, because or else what will happen is when I'm doing the demo will be very slow, right? So there is everything, else just keep it as it is. The next part is networking. We'll discuss about this part later on, right? But for now, please note that because you said that you're going to go and expose it via the public IP, he has created a network himself. Just keep it as it is. And you can see here, once you create a network, you are also charged for the IP address. Remember one very, very important thing in Azure, you pay for everything. See, it sounds very mesmerizing, it sounds very attractive that it is pay as you go. But remember that as you keep adding items out here, if you are not careful, then your cost keeps increasing. Remember, when I started this machine, it was 7,000 rupees. It has become almost 17,000, right? So be very sure about what you are shopping. Be very sure about what you're selecting out here, right? But for now, I'll just select all this because I want a public IP address and so on. Next comes the management. For now, I'll just leave it at this moment as it is. We'll discuss about the management later on. Monitoring, do you want to enable monitoring, saying that, okay, do you want to keep alerts out here that if the virtual machine has shut down, then do you want to have an alert? Do you want to have the health monitoring if the machine is going slow and so on? We'll just keep it as it is, not needed, right? Advanced tag, just for now, this tab also keep it as it is, don't worry about it. We'll see this later on. Tags. See, one is you have created a resource group, right? So you have a resource group out there, and that resource group helps you to organize them into one logical unit. But then you would like to also go and put some tags out here, while you are billing, while you are searching, right? You would like to go and apply these tags. For example, I'll say here, this one, I'll say that this, let's say this project, for which country we are serving, this is for UK. Okay. Second, I would like to say that, okay, which is the project manager who is leading this project manager name? Let us say here Shiv, right? So these are tags out here which I can apply during billing, or I can go and if I'm going and searching something, I can use these tags, right? And I'll go and hit review and create. Remember my total cost at the right hand side, it is showing 17,000 Indian rupees, that is because I'm logged in with an Indian account, right? And there you can see it is showing me the hourly rate. So that's why I was saying for learning Azure, it does not cost you a lot, right? So it is showing me approximately 20 INR per hour, right? I think I should be fine with that, and I will hit create. Now once you hit create, right, what happens is at the right hand side, watch the right hand side. Now this should become a habit. You will see that it is showing deployment in progress, right? So you will see this is the notification bar out here. So it is showing this deployment is happening it's in progress, right? So once the deployment is finished, you will in the notification, you will get that this deployment is done, right? So you can see out here, as this deployment is happening, you will see that for creating a virtual machine, how many resources are needed? You need, if I go and just make this bigger out here, you need the virtual machine, absolutely. You need the network interfaces, the NIC card, look at it. You need a virtual network, absolutely. You need a public IP address, yes. You will need hardwares, hard disk. You will need RAM. So all these resources are getting created at this moment. And remember that all these resources will be put into that one resource group, right? Or else what will happen if you don't had a resource group, then all of this thing, what you're seeing out here will be scattered, right? So you can see here it is getting created. Once the creation finishes, it will show here that deployment is done. So let us give it a minute. So there it is. You can see the deployment is complete, right? So we can go to the resource. So you can go to the resource from here. So you can see here, you can go to the resource from here. Or what you can also do is that you can go and you can sort by virtual machines, or you can filter by virtual machines. So you can see here, I see my resource out here, right? My virtual machine out here. So you can go here and say virtual machines, and whatever virtual machines you have should be seen on the list, right? Also, you can go to the resource group out here. In the resource group, again, if you don't get the resource group from this page out here, right, you can go and you can search your resource group. Anything you get stuck, try to use the search, right? So if I go to the resource group out here, you can say UK Project Mumbai, that is my resource group. And when I go into that resource group, you can see for this virtual machine, what do we need? We need a virtual machine, one item. We need IP address. We need a network security group. We'll talk about this later on. We need a network. We need an NIC card to connect to the network. We need a hard disk. You get billed for everything in Azure, right? But for now, I want to go and log into my virtual machine. So there it is. This is my virtual machine. I'll click on it. Now, when you go and select any item of Azure, anything, it's either a network, it is either the hard disk, it is either an app service, right? You will always get this view. One is the overview. In this overview, you will find, whatever you want, the important things, important summary of that item. And second, down below, you will see many other settings like networking and backup and many other settings you will find, right? We'll go to that later on. But always remember that you will have an overview and the list of things you can do on that virtual machines, list of configurations you can do on the virtual machines are present right out here, right? But for now, our interest is that we want to just go and log in to the virtual machine. So you can see this is the public IP address from which I can connect, right? Now, in order to connect to a virtual machine, right? So this is the IP address. Remember, this is also paid. We are paid for it, right? For this virtual machine also we are paid. For this operating system we are paid. Everything is chargeable out here, right? So you can see here, one is I can go and to connect to the virtual machine, I can copy this IP address, and I am on a Windows operating system at this moment, so I can use the Microsoft Terminal Services, the RDP MSTSC, right? The remote desktop connection. I can go and I can copy this public IP address from here and say connect, right? Or another way is that you can see at the left hand side there is a connect. So connect via Bastion or connect via connect. So I'll just use the connect for now. We'll discuss this Bastion option later on. So I'll say connect out here, and in order to connect, you can download the RDP file. So I can say download RDP file, but remember that this RDP file does the same thing. If you go and click on this RDP file, you can see at the top he has downloaded the RDP file. It goes and does the same thing. It goes and does MSTSC. Internally it opens up that MSTSC. It has those IP addresses and the username and everything, right? And it is doing the same thing, right? So either you can go from there or either you can go from here. It means the same thing. So I'll just put the password out here, and with this I should be able to log in to my virtual machine. And so you can see here, this is my virtual machine which is starting, and this is termed as infrastructure as a service, IaaS. You are accessing the hardware, you are responsible for everything. Virtual machine is a IaaS, right? Now you would say that, sir, but in virtual machine we also purchase some software like the Windows operating system and so on. Now it is logical, right? You can't get a hardware through the internet, isn't it, right? To access the hardware, you will need something. You will need at least the operating system. So yes, when we say like it is not something which is coming from Amazon into your hand, right? It is not a desktop which will come to into your hand. It is a virtual machine. So a machine, this machine is yours, absolutely. But to access this machine, you need the operating system. So that's why that you have to pay for the OS as well, right? So I'll say, do you want this settings? No, I don't want it. And there it is, your first Azure service, what you see out here, right? You can now go ahead and use this machine out there, install your application, install your SQL server, your databases, what you want to do, install your websites and so on, right? But remember, if you're using a virtual machine, you are responsible for everything. Now, one very important thing which I want to say out here is that using a virtual machine only is not cloud. Many people, what they do, many developers, what they do is that they say, okay, so we had a virtual machine locally, we took all that software and install it on the cloud. That is termed as lift and shift. A lift and shift is using one of the features of Azure, which is virtual machine, right? But that you can get from GoDaddy as well, frankly. That you can really get from GoDaddy as well, right? So remember that virtual machines, when you're saying that you are using a virtual machine, does not mean if your organization is purely using virtual machine, it does not mean that it is doing cloud. It has virtual machines online. It has done a lift and a shift, but it is not using the platform as a service of Azure. It is not using the software as a service of Azure, right? Great. And just in case when you're doing these practicals, if you're getting any errors, right, please go and put down on the comments, or you can send me a message also, right, saying that you are stuck with this practical. I'll try to help you out. Okay. Great. Now I'm going to go and close this, right? Now one very simple question to everyone, right? If you know this answer, you can put down in the comments, right? And let me see that how many people can answer this. So we have the virtual machine out here. We are getting X amount of cost. So remember, if you want to go and see the cost of this, right? So if you want to go and see the cost of the whole resource, what you can do is that you can say UK project Mumbai, and you can go and you can look at the cost analysis out here. It will give you the cost. What is there at this moment. There is no cost, because remember, I have not even completed an hour, right? So whatever is the cost out here will come after an hour, right? So whatever is the cost, you will see it out here for the whole resource group, right? Now my question here is that if I go and if I stop this virtual machine, look at it, if I stop this virtual machine, will I get billed for it? Simple question to everyone. If I go and if I say stop, so what happens now? I'm not using the RAM, I'm not using the CPU, I'm not using the virtual machine, and you said that it is pay as you go, right? So if I go and stop it, will I get billed? So please put down the answers down below, right? So with that brings us to the first practical what we have done, creating a virtual machine. Now, once you are done with practicals, right, one of the most important thing is the cost, because you don't want to get billed, right? And this is very important. Remember that if you keep this on, you will be getting billed and billed and billed, and at the end of the month you will get a huge credit card bill, and you can't do anything about it, right? So make sure that once you are done with this demo, you go and you delete that resource group, right? So I'm going to go to that resource group, right? Now, no, you're not going to go and delete individually, the virtual machines. You're going to go and delete the whole unit. You will delete the hard disk, you will delete the IP address, you will delete the NSG and everything, right? So you can see here, I'm selecting the UK project out here, and there is a delete resource group. So again, I'm saying if you go and delete the app server over here like this, you will still be getting billed for IP address and so on, right? So if you want to delete it, make sure that you delete the whole unit out here, right? So I'll say delete user group, right? And he will just prompt you saying that, do you want to delete the complete group? Yes. So I'll go and say delete the complete group. Apply force and delete the virtual machine scale set. So as you apply the force, just delete everything, right? And I'll hit delete. So once you hit delete, it's going to go and start deleting the user groups out here. Remember, always see the notification, start making it as a habit, so you can see the notification out here. So after some time, if everything is okay, you should be able to see the complete cleanup of the resource group, right? And make sure that once you see the success message, then only log off, right? Like for example, what happens many times is that you are deleting the resource group and suddenly it gets stuck, because of some lock out there, or because of, let's say if you have kept something for backing up, if you have started some backup service, right? So if you have started a backup service on a VM, it will not delete that group, then it will not delete that resource. Why? Because at the end there is a backup. So you have to go and stop that backup so that the resource group gets deleted. So just wait for some time and just make sure that this resource group gets deleted, or else you will get a huge credit card bill. Because remember, we have a free credit limit, but in order to respect that free credit limit, we have to be a little bit cautious. So at this moment, if I delete this within an hour, I will be billed only that 20 rupees or per hour, whatever I was displayed, right? But if I don't, then I will be billed every hour, right? So there it is, deleting the resource group. Let us see for some time. Let us wait for some time and see that it is getting deleted. Once it gets deleted, it will show up a green message out here saying that successfully deleted. So there it is, you can see deleted the resource UK project Mumbai, right? And you can go and just check it. So if you go and click on the resource group, you can see it has gone away, right? If you go to virtual machines out here, it has gone away. So that means now everything is good. Sometimes what happens is, you can see in the recent, you will see that there is an app server out here, but this has been deleted. So if you click on this, you will get a nasty message out here saying that this resource is not found, right? So even if it is there, because when I click on the virtual machines, I don't see it, but because I had used it recently, these are showing the recent item which I have accessed, but it is actually deleted, right? So just make sure that once you go and see the resource group, it has gone away from there, right? Also go and just check, if the items are not accessible, right? So this is a very, very important activity. If you're not doing this activity after every lab, I'm not responsible. Disclaimer, I'm not responsible for your credit card bills. Now guys, you just saw this practical, right? It's very much possible, while doing the practicals, you can face issues, right? So when you're facing any issue in the practical, because remember, the Azure UI can change. So let us say that if you're seeing this tutorial, after 1 year or 2 years, very much possible the left menu can become a right menu and something can change. If something you're not able to find out there in the practicals, right, go ahead, put down the timestamp saying that on this timestamp, I'm facing an issue. I will try to reply to the comments. I'll try to help you out there. So if you have any issues with the practical, put down the timestamp of that practical, right, where you are not able to see that thing, right, and let me try my best, if I can reply to that comment. One of the very important concepts in cloud which we need to understand is, or I'll say 3 concepts in cloud which are connected, which we need to understand is public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. See, what happens is, many organizations out there don't want to go public. For example, let us say that you have banking systems, or must be, let us say, that day I met one of the persons in healthcare. He says that, oh, like my patient data should be in my premise, it should be on my server. But yes, the appointment booking can be on Azure or it can be on cloud, right? So somebody wants to go completely on public cloud. So public cloud means portal.azure.com or online on Amazon. That is called as public cloud. He will go and say, okay, let me go and host my virtual machines. Let me go and host my websites, everything online. I want nothing offline. That is called as pure public cloud, right? Second, someone will say, no, like I don't want to go online. I want it everything in premise, right? Then we are talking about private cloud, right? In private cloud, he connects to his data center. So must be there is a building out there where he will go and say, these 4 or 5 machines are mine. And on that, he will try to do cloud, and it will be within his network and it is not exposed outside. So that is termed as private cloud. And some of the companies would say they would like to enjoy the hybrid mode. They will say, let us do like this. All the sensitive information will be on my private cloud, right? And if information like this, online booking or information which are not sensitive, right, and which needs large scaling up, he will put it on public cloud. And then he will try to do some synchronization or so on, right? So these are the 3 ways, by which organizations can use cloud. Public cloud, purely on Portal Azure. Private cloud, on his own data centers. He will go and take some machines from a data center. Remember, you cannot hire a whole data center. Very difficult it is. But let us say you will say, okay, these 4 or 5 machines on the first floor is mine, and he will host a private cloud out there. And third one is hybrid. He will say some data, sensitive data in my network, in my private cloud, and public data, I can put it on the public private cloud. Now, one very important point here is that when you say private cloud does not mean private network. It is not like, oh, like let me create one VPN and everybody is sitting on that VPN. No, a VPN is not a private cloud. Cloud again has to be self-service. All that thing again comes into picture. Like he should be able to see the Azure portal in your local data centers, right? So he should be able to self-service it. He should be able to create a virtual machine. He should be able to deploy it, delete it, and all that, right? What it means is that you need to take that Azure software or take that Azure thing out there and put it locally into your data center machines. Now for that, we have a lot of Azure versions for it. For example, we have HCI, right? So by using HCI, you can go and use it for creating virtual machines, right? You have Stack Hub if you want PAAS also, right? You can use UX like Kubernetes and Docker, right? And do cloud as well. So basically, you have to use the Azure stack locally, because many times what people think, oh, like, so we have private machines. If you say you want a machine, you will go and call up the support. No, there is no support here again. Again, we are coming to the same point. Even if it is private cloud, he is not going to go and call a support person and then Mr. David comes and says, okay, tell me what machine you want. No, it has to be self-provisioned. He will go there, say, okay, virtual machine, tuck, he will put this much RAM, done, start using it, don't need it, unprovision it or decommission it, right? Whatever. So that's the important point which I want to highlight. Private cloud does not mean private network. Private cloud has to follow all that things, self-serviced, use and delete it and all that, right? And again, it has to be more Opex based model, right? Opex based kind of thing. Now here is a small tip to everyone. Remember, this is a long lesson. It is a 2+ hours of lesson. So as a developer, by looking at the theory, by also doing the demos, you can't complete this in a day or weeks together, must be, right? So what you can do is that, learn peacefully. I mean, like, for the first day, just do 15 minutes. Then again do 15 minutes, right? So what I would suggest is that, don't try to see the full video in one go, because if you try to see the full video in one go, you will just get saturated, you will lose your stamina, right? So must be on the first day, just do 15-20 minutes. And then what you can do is that put down the timestamp in the comments, put down the timestamp saying that, okay, I did this video till 15th minute. Come back then after, let's say, 2 days and start from the 15th minute, right? So follow this tip out there. With that, you will also be reminded that you have to complete the course. Also, you will know, till where you have finished till where you have started. The next topic, what we are discussing here is the Azure infrastructure topology. right? Now I like this topic so much, why? Because this is one of the most important topic, right? And out of respect, what I did is, I just went ahead and I changed something in myself. If you know what I've changed in myself, put down in the comments below. Okay, coming back to the topic. So definitely, Azure has a lot of data centers, right? It has a lot of data centers across the world, across the globe. But all these data centers are very well planned. So it is not like, okay, they like Texas or they like California or they like something in Pune and they will open up a data center. There is some planning which goes into it, right? So let us try to understand the whole hierarchy, the infrastructure of Azure. With that, what will happen is, when we go ahead and create a service, you exactly know what you are selecting. So when you actually go and try to select something in Azure, like a region or like a zone, you will understand what exactly you are selecting, right? So let me go ahead to my board out there and let me explain you how this infrastructure topology is organized. So now what happens here is, the first thing at the top is the geography. Now what is a geography? A geography is a sovereign of a country. For example, you say India, so India has a sovereign boundary. If you say US, US has a sovereign boundary. Nepal has a sovereign boundary. So at the top we have geography, right? So for example, a geography can be US, it can be India, it can be Nepal, So you have a geography at the top, right? When you go into Azure, really, you don't see a geography as such, but definitely there is a clear demarcation of a geography. Why? Because one of the things, we have to also look at is, we have to also look at compliance. For example, I'm just saying, let us say that, you are doing something for a US government. Now, when you're working for a US government, the US government does not want his data to be placed somewhere in India, right? Or let us say, if you're doing something for an Indian government, like let's say you're doing some project for Aadhaar card, just example I'm saying, Now Indian government will say, okay, like because this is Aadhaar card data, it should not go beyond the geography of mine, right? So the whole point of geography out, why they are put is, they are put from the compliance perspective, right? So at the top we have geography, right? So now let us take India. So inside the geography, you will have something called as regions. Now these regions really, don't have any direct mapping with the government as such. For example, if you look at the Azure Indian regions out there, you will see that there is a north region, right? I'll just put N. There is a central region, and I think there is a south region. I'm sorry, in case if just these regions I have misspelled or must be have said something wrong. But in short, there are regions out there which are there, right? So now let us say we have central India. The further, so at the top we have geography out here, right? This is a geography, and this one here is a region. Now further, that region is divided into something called as zones. For example, if you say central India, then they will say, okay, in central India we have Pune, let's say example, and we say Hinjewadi, and Hinjewadi will be one of the zones. So just let us say, or else you just say Pune must be, Pune is one of the zones out there, and in that zone, so you have Pune, and let's say Pune has two zones out here. So one is zone 1, must be it is Hinjewadi somewhere, right? Another one is something zone 2, it is somewhere, let's say Chinchwad, right? It's people who are from Pune, right? They would know what I'm saying, right? But what I'm saying is that, inside the regions, there are zones, okay? And inside the zones, there are data centers. So when I say data center, means there is a building out here, and inside that building, there are servers and servers. That is what the data center is. In one zone, you can have multiple data centers, right? So in one zone, for example, you can see here in this central India zone in Pune, in let us say Hinjewadi out here, you can have one data center 1 and data center 2, right? And then in another zone, you can have another data center, right? So this is how overall the topology of Azure is. Geography, then you have the regions, and then regions has the zones, and then zones have those data center buildings, right? With this infrastructure topology, right, there is one very important concept which I think we should know is redundancy and availability zones, right? So let us talk about it. So now this is zone 1, right? And this is zone 2. So let us say this is zone 2's data center building D1, right? And this is zone 1's data center building D1, right? Just think there are two big buildings out there. So let us go ahead and zoom up this building out here of this data center, and zoom up this building out here of this data center, right? Means of zone 2. So assume that this building is of 2 floors. Just assume for simplicity, there's 2 floors out here. On the top floor, there is a server rack. I hope everybody knows what is a server rack is, right? If you don't know what is a server rack is, on the screen, we are flashing the server rack out here, right? That's how it looks like. Okay. So now on these server racks, assume there are 4 servers here. Assume it's a small data center out there, right? 4 servers out here, right? And this one also, D1, I'll just flash out here and say, okay, over here also there are 2 floors and a rack, and there are some servers out here as well, right? Now, you go ahead and say you want to create a virtual machine. Azure says, yes, where you want to create. You say, I want to create in Central India. He says, in Central India, where you want to create. You say, I want to create in zone 1, right? So he goes and he creates somewhere on this data center in one of the computers somewhere on one of the floors in one of the racks. He goes and he creates your VM which is running, assume. Now what you want is you want a backup, you want a redundancy, right? Saying that, okay, I want 2 VMs. Just in case if this VM fails, right, I should be able to continue another VM. So you want to go and say that, okay, how about like this? If I create a VM here, the same type of a virtual machine, the same type of resource, can you go and create in another zone? Now you'll say, sir, why in another zone? Think about it. Normally these zones are like at least they are away by some distance, 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers. I don't exactly remember what is Azure protocol, but they are a little bit far away. So what happens is, just in case if there is some fire out there, right, you can just go to another zone. And let's say if there is something bad happening in Pune, God forbid something should not happen like that, then you'll say, oh, like something is there in Pune, let us go to Bangalore. And let's say if something is happening in India, then we go and we shift to US, right? So you can have backups and disaster recovery kind of a mechanism out here, right? So now what you want is, you want that, okay, if I create a virtual machine out here, automatically another kind of a virtual machine should get created in another zone which is geographically apart, which is apart from the perspective of electricity vendor is different, the water vendor is different, the people are different, right? And this one here is termed as availability zones. So availability zone is a concept which helps us to do redundancy, saying that, okay, if this zone fails for some reason, how we can have a setup in another zone, a redundant one, right? That's what is termed as availability zones. So what we'll do now is that, let us switch off this camera, we'll go back to our screen and we'll do a very superb demo, right, of availability zones. Now, before we go to the chapter 11, where we are going to go and demo out availability zone, this is one of my beautiful demos, guys. You should really watch it. But before I go to that demo, I have a very, very quick announcement to make on Questpond. So on questpond.com, we have Azure lessons right from basic, absolute basic to advanced. So it is almost like 50 hours of my training which I have recorded with source code, with demonstrations, right? So if you want, you can go ahead and you can avail from Questpond, or you can also go and buy it from the YouTube membership, right? Second, we also take live training. I personally take live trainings, for small batch of 10 developers or 15 developers out there, right? If you want to go and avail for the live trainings, those also are available for Azure. So if you want, what you can do is that you can go to questpond.com and chat, with our support person out there. They will inform you exactly how to avail to these benefits. So let us go ahead and create a new Azure virtual machine out here, and always remember that you should always create a resource group so that you can delete this whole resource group later on, and you don't get billed unnecessarily. I'll just give a name here, VM123. Now let us say I want to go and create this resource group or create this virtual machine, let's say in Central India, right? Remember I said that at the top you have a geography, and then geography is further divided into regions, and then further the regions are divided into zones, right? So you can see here, this is the region here, and I'm selecting Central India. Now if I look at Central India, inside that, so first thing is, when you select this region out here, and if you say no infrastructure redundancy, that means that you don't want any backup, you don't want any kind of redundancy and so on, right? But if you say no, like I want to go and I want redundancy, I want backup, I want a disaster recovery plan and so on, that means that you have to select one of these 3 here, right? So I'm going to go and select availability zone for now. If you remember, as I've said in the previous diagram, where I've explained, I said that what we want to do is that we will go and we will create a virtual machine in one of the zones, right? So you can see here, these are the 3 zones out here inside Central India. Remember, geography, regions and zones. Now you can see here, by default here, just selected zone 1, okay? And that means that he will only charge me for one virtual machine. You can see at the right side it is showing me 9,500 rupees something, right? But if I go and if I select another one like this, look at it, it has made it double. Why? Because that means now he will create two virtual machines. He will create two virtual machines, one a redundant one as a backup, right? So I'm going to go and select zone 1 and zone 2. So I want two virtual machines out here, and rest of the things I will keep it as it is, right? Let us give the credentials by which we will log in into the Windows operating system, right? Keep the other things as it is, right? Now next is the disk. Remember again, the disk also, you know, if you go and if you select the disk, like saying that okay, I want a SSD, then you will be charged accordingly. If you say HDD, accordingly you will get charged less, right? So I'll just keep all the things as it is. I'll say review and create. Now what I'm really looking out here is that I'm looking out here that it should go and it should create two virtual machines, right? So you can see here it is saying something in the networking out here, right? And if I go down below, it is saying that do you want a load balancer or not? This is nice. See, now what has happened is that you have selected redundancy, right? So at the back he's creating two virtual machines. So he's saying that what do you really want, right? Do you want to go ahead and do load balancing? In other words, for example, situation number 1, you'll say no, like I don't want to do load balancing or something. I will use this one virtual machine, and if anything goes wrong, I will manually go to the second virtual machine. Again, you know, try to understand my statement. So let's say you'll say, oh no, I just want two virtual machines, one running as a standby. If anything goes wrong, I'll just go manually. I will, go ahead and probably switch off the IP, or I will point the public IP to the other virtual machine and start working. Then someone will say, no, I don't want to do this manual work. I can put a load balancer in between. So by putting a load balancer, what will happen is that if something goes wrong in one of the virtual machine, the load balancer will automatically divert traffic to the other virtual machine. So for now, I'll say no, I don't want anything automatic. It's manual, right? And we'll see how to do it, right? Later on, we're going to go and look at load balancers and application gateway and so on, right? In the future advanced classes, right? But for now, we'll just say review and create. And so 21 rupees per hour, I think that is great. And create. Okay. So now the deployment is in progress. Remember, always look at the right side. This is where you will get to know if everything is successful. So there it is. You can see our VM has been created. So I'll just go to the resource out here. So now the first thing what we would like to see is, let us go to the virtual machines out here. We should see two virtual machines. See, this is very interesting. We should see two virtual machines. Right. So we should see two virtual machines, and we are seeing two virtual machines out here, VM1231 and VM1232, right? So one virtual machine is running in one zone and another virtual machine is running on another zone, but definitely they belong to the same region. That's what you can see out here, right? And see, for by default for now, you can see that the public IP address is pointed towards this virtual machine. So I can go ahead, I can connect to this virtual machine, right? But to the other virtual machine, it's a standby. You can see here, even if I try to connect it, I won't be able to connect because it does not have a public IP address, right? Now think about it. So if this virtual machine goes down for some reason, if this virtual machine goes down, right, what should I do, right? So let's say it stops out here, or it gets deleted, or something happens out here, right? Now in that case, what I have to do is, because this is a manual switch over, right? This is a manual switch over, right? I have not used a load balancer. What I will do now here is I will go ahead to the IP address. So I will go grab the IP address, right? So we have a public IP address, right? Remember, when you create a virtual machine, you get a hard disk, you get IP address and so on. So this is the public IP address out here. So I'll take this IP address and I will say that disassociate this IP address from virtual machine 1, right? Yes. And okay, and then associate it with, so I'll say that associate now it with not with the load balancer. Remember, we have not used the load balancer, so we don't have a load balancer. So I'll say that, okay, we have to go and associate it with the NIC card, which is attached to the VM. So I'll say, okay, network interface with which machine. So I'll say, okay, this is the machine, because the first machine is not working at this moment. I'll say, okay. So with this, now what will happen is, the virtual machine, which is the second one, the IP address will now be, so if I refresh, it's still getting attached. You can see at this moment, this is not successful. So once this is successful out here, once the IP address is associated with the NIC card, what will happen is that this VM123 will have the public IP address. It will get associated with that VM, right? So let's give it a minute. Remember, changing of the IP address with the NIC card takes a little bit of time. You can see at the top, it is still in progress. So there it is, successful, right? So now if I go here and if I say refresh, you will see the public IP address has got associated with VM1232. And if I say connect out here, I can go ahead and I can connect to this VM, right? So there it is, and that should work. So this is called as availability zones. Availability zones means you want to go ahead and have redundancy of your resources, right? And when one fails, there is another one which is at the standby. And remember that this resource, what is there as a standby, it is not there in the same nearby geography. It is little bit far away, right? So with that, you have a decent how do you say it, decent kind of a plan, saying that, because if you put the VM on the same data center, it does not make sense, right? If you're putting in the same floor, right, or on the same rack, because it is very much possible that the electricity has gone off of that whole building and then you are on your own, right? So normally, when you're talking about this kind of redundancy, right, they should be they should be away from that data center, right, or away from that geography, right? So it makes sense of having this availability zones, when you want better disaster recovery. Now the last practical what we did, right, let us try to connect this practical with some theory. There are some vocabularies which you need to understand whenever you're going on cloud. These vocabularies are very important, right? So there are 5 vocabularies which I want to touch base. First one is termed as disaster recovery, high availability, fault tolerance, scalability, and elasticity. 5 things we'll try to understand, and from this, some of the vocabularies I will try to connect with the practical what we did, that is the availability zones practical. We'll try to connect with the vocabulary, right? Because what happens is, if you go on cloud out there, anyone will say that, okay, this cloud is actually highly available, this cloud is elastic, this cloud is scalable. So you have to understand these terminologies, and many developers think that all of these terminologies are same. Oh, highly available means it is fault tolerant, and when you're fault tolerant means you can recover your disaster. No, all of them are different. Let us try to understand, right? So I'm going to go now to my screen out here. So first, let us start about disaster recovery. Disaster recovery means that something calamity has happened, like there is a flood, there is a earthquake, right? Something which there is a natural nature's calamity has happened, and when nature calamity happens, right, it's a God's thing, right? And when God's thing happen, right, human don't have control really. So when if something is here like a calamity, right, or something like a disaster, that is the right word. If there is a disaster, my handwriting. So if there is a disaster, if the disaster is yes, then we are talking about disaster recovery. In case of disaster recovery, it is not about machines only. It is not about backups. Humans' lives have gone, building has crashed, something hell has happened out there. So here, when you say, right, to go ahead and recover that thing, it can take days, it can take months, it can take years. So when someone says, do you have a DR plan? Does this cloud support disaster recovery plan? It means that if there is any kind of disaster recovery, how will you recover? First point is that there is nothing automatic for disaster recovery. So if a building comes down or there's an earthquake, there is nothing automatic. We have to recruit new people. We have to look at the old people, who have lost their lives, how to help them out. The building has crashed. So there is nothing automatic when there is a disaster, right? Okay, now you'll say, no, it's not a disaster really, but it's, that server has gone down or something. Now cloud fits in, right? Or now, yes, something it is controlled by humans. So now here the question comes is that how much time you can tolerate, or how much time you are okay with shutting down the business. For example, I'll just say an example of my HIMS system. So we have an HIMS system which is installed in a lot of places, in hospitals. Now what happens, let us say my system is down for an hour. Yes, people can wait. At that time, people can, the billing person can go and write down something on the paper and say, okay, like they can do the work manually, not for a long time, but for 1 hour we can have a downtime. So now the next question is, how much downtime you can have? If you say, I can have some downtime, yes. If this is the answer, yes, then we are talking about high availability. High availability means, okay, my one machine has gone down. I will have a redundant machine created, right? And if something happens bad out here, I will take the backup. I'll do it manually or whatever, right? But there will be 1 hour of downtime, right? So in this case, what you do is that you have a machine which is there, and let us say this machine goes off. Then immediately you will have a machine which is out there available. You will take the backup, right? You will start putting things out here, right? And this will go live, right? But this switch will take some time, must be 1 hour or whatever it is, which your business can tolerate, which your business can have SLA. This is termed as high availability. So someone says on the cloud that this solution is highly available, or this solution supports high availability, then expect some downtime. Ask that person that, okay, so what is the downtime, right? Then someone says, no, I cannot have downtime. No downtime, absolute, like something happens bad, like it should just come up, for example, a stock market. You can't have a downtime over there. Or let us say, when you're talking about, something else like a patient's heartbeat, right? You have those heart pacers, what you wear. If something happens bad in the heart pacer, no, you can't have a downtime in those cases, right? So then, what we are talking about, something called as fault tolerance. So in case of fault tolerance, you can't have downtime. So in this case, so you have a server or you have an application which is running. I'm using the word server because we have been doing virtual machines, right? You will have another server in parallel which is running, and continuously there will be synchronization, there will be backup. So if 10 records are added here, it will get backed up over there. If something change happens here, it will get backed over there, right? And when something goes bad, you will just make a switch, like thuk. Must be there is a load balancer or must be something in between, and the switch will happen. This is called as fault tolerance. So remember, disaster recovery, it will take days to recover, months to recover, right? Or years to recover. Highly available, we can have some downtime, but it can't exceed that period, whatever is, you can define some SLA out there. And fault tolerance, we cannot have downtime, right? Now this, coming back, this highly high availability is nothing but what we saw just now, availability zones. See, availability zones support is nothing but it's an implementation of high availability. Remember, now in Azure, they are given a lot of ways to recover, to backup, to do, you can have a redundant, right? You have to now map, oh, is this fault tolerance, or this is highly available, or this is disaster recovery? So the availability zones, what we just saw just now, it is nothing but it is an implementation for high availability. So these are the three terminologies. Now there are two more terminologies which are important: scalability and elasticity. What is scalability? Scalability means that if your load increases, let us say that you start with 10 users, right? But suddenly, there is, let's say that suddenly something goes viral out there and people like your website, right? And suddenly you have from 10 users, it becomes 100,000 users. Now, when it becomes 100,000 users, that is the time you'd like to actually make sales. Your site should be live and your site comes down. So scalable means if it goes from 10 users to 100,000 users, must be at the back end automatically 3 servers should be added to load balance, right? So scalability means if the load increases, your resources at the back also increases, right? So that is called as scalability. So I'm just drawing a diagram out here. Scalable means if your user load goes from 10 to 100,000 something, right? Then must be from one server, you would like to go and say now add 4 more servers at the back. And at the same time, now let us say it becomes 100,000 users, and then suddenly it's in the night time, there are again 10 users. Now elasticity. From that 4 servers, then you have to again go back to 1, because you don't want to just keep running those servers and burn money, isn't it? So elasticity, so this is scalability, right? Scalability, sorry for my handwriting, going up, right? Elasticity is like back again. I mean, it's to and fro. Elasticity is, okay, now the number of users have gone from 100,000 to 10, we should go from 4 to 1. This is elasticity, right? So these are the 5 concepts which are very important, right? Now what we'll do is, I will switch off the camera and we will see the demo for scalability and elasticity using virtual machines. So now let us go ahead and demo elasticity and scalability, right? So in this demo, what we'll do is that we'll create a virtual machine, and we will say that if the virtual machine's CPU goes above, let us say 50%, you should spawn up a new virtual machine, okay? And if it goes below 40%, you should remove if you have added any kind of new virtual machine. Elasticity. So scalability means as the load increases, new resources should be spawned up, right? So that is what we will demo. We'll spawn up new virtual machines, and once the load comes down, the other virtual machine should also get removed, right? So let us see how this scalability and elasticity works in terms of virtual machine. Now in order to do that, right, in this we have a concept here called as a virtual machine scale set. A virtual machine scale set is nothing but a group of virtual machines which can get added automatically if you have more load, and can get decremented automatically if you have less load, right? Remember, first one is no redundancy. You don't want to have any backup. Probably you are using a virtual machine like a use and a throw. This choice is good. Availability zones, you are saying no, like I will create one virtual machine, also I'll create one backup virtual machine. High availability. Try to map the vocabularies. So if something happens bad here, I will just go and log into the other virtual machine. I will take the backup and I'll start my work, right? And another one, flexibility and scalability and elasticity, right, is done by using Azure virtual machine set, right? So let us go ahead and select an Azure virtual machine set. We will again give a name as res delete. Remember, as I've said, that don't get charged unnecessarily. And we'll say that this is VM1, right? Or VM server, we'll just put it, okay? VM server, I'm creating in Central India, but this is a virtual machine set. So let us go ahead and create a virtual machine set, and we will say that in this virtual machine set, now remember, even if you are creating a virtual machine set, you can also think like this. You will say that, okay, is it possible to combine the high availability and the scalability? Yes, you can always go and use availability zones out here, and you can say that whatever I'm doing here, this virtual machine set, also replicate the same in some other zone. So just in case if you want to have high availability as well as scalability, then you need to choose this also. This will do high availability, and the virtual machine set will do, you can see the virtual machine set, scale set, that will help us to do the scalability and elasticity. Again, I repeat, this helps us to do elasticity and scalability for virtual machines, while this one here, availability zones, will help us to do high availability. All that concept I explained in the last lecture, right? So for now, I'll say, okay, I need, I'll say VM server, and I will say I want an automatic scaling. I'll configure it out here, and you can see there's a default condition. It says that if your CPU goes 80%, and so on. I'll say no, like not 80% really. So we want auto scaling. We don't want to do manual update. So I'll say that, okay, 1 instance count and minimum 1 instance count, right? And maximum you can go to 5 virtual machines. So as the load increases, I just want you to restrict till 5. And if the CPU threshold goes above 50, look at this. If the CPU's threshold goes above 50, then increase one more virtual machine by 1. So 1 is the count. And if the CPU threshold goes above 40, below 40, then go and decrease the virtual machine count, right? by 1, right? So there it is. And definitely you would also like to query, because let's say now you go above 50%, right? Then when should I go and increase, right? So keep querying me in every 15 minutes for 10 minutes. I'm sorry, here you can see 10 minutes the default. So I'll say don't query in 10 minutes. Let's make it 5. I think you can't go below 5, that would be too chatty, right? So I'll say 5. So in every 5 minutes, keep querying. Is the CPU usage going above 50%? Spawn up a new virtual machine, right? So I'll save this. Very, very simple. Very, very simple. Save it. We'll go and we'll save this out here, and we will create a Windows virtual machine. You can go and also do Ubuntu also if you want it, right? Just that I'm comfortable and biased for VMs out for Windows virtual machine out here. Let me keep this small 3.5 GB RAM out here, and let's put it as the username and the password which we want for our virtual machine. Right. So other things are all simple. These are all default. What we have done previously. Nothing as such. Nothing as such. Which is very different from the past demos, right? So I'll say go and create it, right? Now what happens out here is when you create a virtual machine set. So let us go and hit create. In case of a virtual machine set, the Azure team has put one more feature here from security aspect. You can see the deployment is in progress, and we will go ahead, and once the deployment is completed, we'll go ahead and we'll log in, right? Now, one more important thing about VM set which I want to talk here is that in case of VM set, the Azure team has put an extra security. What is that security? That security is nothing but the network security group, right? So very quickly, let me explain you the network security group out here. So what is a network security group, right? Let me go and snip very quickly, snipping tool, right? So until that virtual machine gets created, we can just look at this image out here, right? So over here, what is a network security group? So you have a machine or a resource or whatever, right, over here, and you have another resource out here, right? And let us say they are connected through a network, right? So there is a network in between, and they are connected through this network, right? Now a network security group is nothing but you can go ahead and you can apply security at this level. You can say that at this level, don't allow the RDP ports to connect, or at this level, don't allow AT ports, right? So that is termed as NSG. So what has happened is when you create a VM set, in this NSG, by default, the RDP port is blocked. I repeat that. By default, the RDP port is blocked, and because of that, what happens is if you try to do a MSTSC, if you try to RDP into the machine, it will not work. So the first step, what we have to do is that we have to go and enable the RDP port, right? That is one part. The second part, which I want to explain out here is that, so you can see at the back, there it is, the deployment is complete. So let us go to the resource out here. So now if you see, first thing, by default, we should see only one virtual machine, right? Because you can see there's only one virtual machine out here, right? And as we said that when this virtual machine goes above 50%, now how will you know that the virtual machine is above 50%? What you can do is that you can go ahead and you can check for the metrics, right? So we have the metrics out here. So in the metrics, I can just go here and check, if the CPU percentage of the CPU is what, right? So, so at this moment, you can see, I think he's not giving out anything because there is no load on the CPU, I guess, so let us go and log in. So if this should go above 50%, right? But the CPU is running. I was expecting something to show out there. Fine. So let us go ahead and log in the machine, because I think until we don't log in, the CPU is not probably active. It is active actually. It is active. I should see something out here. Must be, I have just started, right? So, okay. Is there any time? So can I say last 30 minutes just to, yeah, oh, no data out here. Okay, fine. Let us try to log in. So if I try to log in out here, now remember again, the login will not work because I told you that, so the login will not work because as discussed, the RDP port is blocked, but let us try. So open it. And if I try to connect, you can see it does not connect, right? So what we have to first do is that we have to go to the NSG and we have to configure the 3389 port so that we can log in. You can see now it is trying to connect, but it will not connect. It will show some errors out here, and there it is, because the RDP port is disabled at the level of the NSG group, right? And very quickly, I want to just check that, because I tried to log in. Did the server get loaded? Nothing. Fine, we'll keep that as it is. We'll see later on, right? So first thing, now let us go to the network security group, right? So if you go and see this RS delete out here, you will see that there is a network security group out here. There it is, right? So let us go to the network security group, and let us go ahead and say allow inbound port, right? Let us say that allow the inbound port for the RDP. So RDP is running at 3389. So allow the 3389 port inbound, right? So in order to go ahead and add an inbound port out here, what we have to do is we have to go to the inbound security rules and say add 3389 and say control V, and we'll say any protocol from anywhere, you should allow this port to connect. I'll say add, and with that security rule is now added, right? You can see here. And now let us try to connect again. So must be I can use the RDP file which has already been downloaded. Let us see. So connect, and there it is. It's now working. Remember, if you have any issues in the lab, right, please drop us a comment, drop us an email out here, right? We'll try to help you out, because these labs are tough. You can get stuck at any place, right? So if anything is out there, please drop us a comment down below, or if you want, you can send a mail also at the above flashed email ID, right? So I'll connect out here, and I'll just see if I'm able to log in. So there it is. I'm able to log in into the virtual machine. So the virtual machine is running, right? And again, I want to go and see that thing out there, my metrics, that is my metrics, because I want to see that server out there, CPU, percentage of CPU, something, it's not showing nothing. That is strange, right? Oh, there it is. It's showing some. Can you see now? It is showing 40%. Look at that. It is showing 40% out here, which is good, right? Remember last time it would have been very less, so it was not showing. So 40% is there. Now the question comes, how to make it 50%? So what we'll do is to make it 50%. Now watch. Everybody just watch here. See my screen, right? So to make it 50%, I'm going to go and run this PowerShell command. What is this? What is a PowerShell, right? This PowerShell command is not PowerShell. PowerShell is nothing but it is a scripting language given to the IT administrators who are on the Windows platform. So if they want to go and do a backup, if they want to go and do a regular restart, any kind of monotonous activity, they can use this PowerShell scripting language, and they can automate their monotonous task, right? So what I'll do is I'll go and I'll run this while loop. This while loop is nothing but a PowerShell script. It will go and it will run, and that will make the CPU go above 50%. I repeat this. This PowerShell script will run and it will make the CPU go above 50%. And once it goes above 50%, what I should see is 1 to the 4, I should see one VM server out here flashed. Okay. So there is my machine out there. So let me go to PowerShell. So I'll go out here. This is the VM. So let me go to PowerShell out here, and we'll say PowerShell, right? Right. So I just typed in the search. By default, PowerShell is installed, right? So you can see it's installed. And now let us go and just paste this code right out there. This code also I'm flashing it on the screen, right? So that you can have a look at it. In the notes, I will give you this code as well, right? So just in case if you are looking at the notes, you should get the code also there, right? So there is my my code out there. I'm going to go and run this. And as soon as I run this, this goes and loads the server above 50%, right? And it should spawn up. And remember, again, we have a query time of 5 minutes. Remember, so it will it's not going to query every minute. It will take at least 5 minutes to query before it starts the new server. So let us see. Also, what we can quickly also see is, we can also go and see if the virtual machine is, what is the load on the virtual machine. So I'm going to go to the virtual machine, means Let us go and see the metrics. Let us see that at least it is going above 50% or not. Must be. So CPU, percentage CPU, and let us look at the average last 30 minutes, right? And it should show me retrieving data. You know, sometimes at the last, yeah, there it is. Look at the jump. That jump is above 50%, right? It has dropped. So if it is above 50%, he has not still spawned up. Why? Let me go out there. Okay, well, that PowerShell got closed. I don't know. Let me go again, run this. I don't know. I'm going to go and run this again. There it is. Okay, it is running. I don't know what happened last time. I just pasted it. What happened, I don't know. So I have again, now it should go above 50% again, right? Because if it goes above 50%, then only the machine will get loaded, right? Let me again check out here. Yeah, it is running. Oh, you can see he's spawning new tasks, job 1, job 2, job 3, right? And as it is spawning, this should shoot 50%. And once that shoots 50%, life is so tough sometimes, right? Let us see what happens. Hey, there it is, 60%. Ho gaya bhai. Show it live. Yeah, try again in this view. And remember, again, I said it's that 5 minutes of delay we will have because you know, remember, like, it should not be like, you know, because sometimes what happens is the workload gets increased and then suddenly it gets decreased, right? So at least let us give it 5 minutes to settle down and say, yes, the workload is this much, right? So I can see that pretty much it is quite above the load now, on above 60% constant, right? Must be, we can check once again the VM set, right? If something wrong in the VM set, have we set anything wrong in the VM set out here? So availability and scaling, let us go and check once again. So I said auto scale, absolutely. And auto scale is, if you are above this, increment by 1, right? Or else you decrement by 1. Perfectly right. And I don't know, let's see. And this one, you can see auto scaling. Why do I see disabled this? Why do I see this is disabled? I don't know how it got disabled. Must well just enable it. I have no idea why it was disabled. Okay, so it is enabled. Now what? It's not still, we have to wait. And let me also check that server. So when you're learning Azure, right, this is how you learn. You actually do it, guys. You have to actually go and try to see to do the demo. It's not just reading the books or passing some exams don't work out actually. Let me go again and check the metrics. I'm so sorry, I'm flipping out here. I hope that because I think that I can go and I can pause the video and then show you, but let me also show you at the back end, you know, what exactly goes, right? So that you can understand that when you're working with Azure, how you work. It's absolutely 50%. You can see here, it's actually exactly 50%. So because it is exactly 50%, see that? That's it. You can see now very beautifully it has spawned up a virtual machine out there, and now we have 2 virtual machines. It has created one more IP address. Scalability, as soon as the load increases above X amount of percentage, you want new resources to be added, right? I don't know how that got disabled. I'm not sure, but just keep that in mind that I don't know how that got disabled, right? Okay, now that is good. You can see it is running, right? So it is creating first thing, and now it is running. Now I go back and I close that thing. So I go back here. Now this server is loaded. It's all black at this moment. He's got like, okay, so I'm going to go and stop this. I'll tell you, okay, you have done a lot of hard work. So let's go and stop this. Must be I can end this. The machine has hanged completely. So I'm just trying to do an abrupt close out there, right? And with that, now I should be able to I should also see elasticity, right? So now if I refresh, definitely I should see now there should be a drop below 40% because it has gone to 60%, but I'm just expecting that because I have closed the task, somewhere down the line it should drop. Last 30 minutes, there it is, you can see it's gone almost 100%. That is so sad, right? So once this drops below 40%, right, because I've closed the task, I hope so, there is no task running out here, just to check. Let me see PowerShell, just in case if something is running. I don't think so, right? And you can see the CPU percentage dropping. It's still 100%. Somewhere that you can see the CPU is still 100%, which is not good. Can I go and sort? So why is it 100%? I don't know. It should keep dropping. It is going 49%, very good. 27%, boom. Yep. Now that is good. So with that, now here also I should see a drop in the CPU, because now there also I'm seeing a drop in the CPU, right? So it's gone 9%, but to see it on the dashboard, it takes some time, isn't it? So I hope it drops over here. Why? I don't know why it's showing 100% here. So if the CPU drops down, I'm expecting it to delete this. It's running still, right? But I'm expecting that if this matrix drops below that percentage, it should delete it, right? So let me do like this. Let me go and pause this video, because I'm just going to go and show you this desperation. It does not work, right? Because it takes some time to drop that thing, and then once that thing comes up, we will see it, right? So I'm going to keep running this video. I'll keep running this video, okay, but I'll just go and cut some of the parts of it, where it is just doing the same thing, right? So I'll keep refreshing. I will keep going here and there, and when that thing happens, I'll start speaking. Okay, boom, you can see now it has dropped below 40%. I was refreshing, I just made some small cuts out there, but I am live still. I'm still live. Okay, now what I'm expecting is after that 5 minutes, elasticity, it should start deleting that, right? Sometimes like, because I have been a programmer from 90s time, I have like from Visual Basic and COBOL I started. Never in my lifetime I've thought, guys, that one day we'll be creating machines like this. Never I have thought. So it's just so exciting to see all this, right? Okay, still running. Remember, again over here it should show that deleting. Let's wait, and I hope we should see there. Why is it creating? Boom, boom, boom. Why did it create? I don't know. Why? I think this one is like enable forecast heat auto scale. I think I should disable this. Because of this it must have happened, because this down was there, the down thing was there, is already there, right? I don't know. This one is predictive auto scale, so must be have just done the prediction. I'll just stop this. He must have just thought, remember that when we went ahead and we ran, so I must have enabled this custom auto scale has run, right? This is the default condition. So because of this, must be he has become over smart, and he went ahead and we created one more machine for me. I think so, because this, you can see here very clearly, this is my mistake. This is one, this is a default, which is a different scale altogether, right? And this is the one which is automatic auto scale. So I think this got triggered, and you can see the instance count is 3. So must be he went ahead and triggered it, right? Because now none of my CPUs are running on that percentage, right? So let us wait for some time. I'm expecting now to see this go off, right? Okay, so there it is, guys. I just made a pause out here. You can see now one CPU has gone off. So I think, the culprit was this auto scale which I enabled, right? And because of that, those things were triggered. I thought that, my condition was not enabled, but I feel it is because of that. Remember, so you don't have to go and check this out here. Just keep it as it is and keep this one here. Just see these things out here, right? Remember, if you give here a very less amount like 30, probably the CPU will never go below 30, right? So just make sure that these numbers are a little bit nearby 20-30% so that your auto scaling works, right? So I'm expecting even the second VM should go off, right? I feel. Let us wait and see. I can just refresh out here because clearly all of the VMs PowerShell I have deleted. And you can see there it is. You can see there it is, guys. Just now I just saw it, Elasticity. Okay, so you just saw the demo. You just saw that, that the machine has been removed, right? I'm sorry for all the confusion what happened, right? But I hope that you have understood that how Elasticity is implemented. Now, very quickly, what I wanted to say out here is that when I was doing this demo, what I felt is that I was a man sitting in the rain, who sowed the seed, and he was seeing the plant grow, right? That's how this demo was. But I hope that you enjoyed this demo. So go ahead, try to do this demo, and if you have any issues with this demo, right, go ahead and send us a mail if you want, right? And if that mail does not work, you can send us a message. You can put down in the comments, right? More than happy to help. And remember, always remember, you should go ahead and delete the resource group, or else you are going to get charged for it. Don't forget this. So now that we have completed almost 2 hours of a training, 2 hours of a video, right? Let us go and test ourselves. Because remember, when I started this course, I said that I promise you that you will complete your Azure fundamentals, the basic fundamentals, right? Now, the best way to test yourself is that I think we should take up some kind of questions, from Microsoft certification exams, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go and take up the AZ900 Microsoft certification exam question, and let us go and run through some like 10 questions, and let us see that can we answer those questions now, right? Very quickly, what is AZ900? AZ900 is a Microsoft certification exam which tests your fundamental knowledge of cloud and Azure. Actually tests your fundamental knowledge about cloud, right? And remember, we do have our own AZ900 course. You can go in the down below link. You will find the AZ900 videos out there. Have a look at them, right? So let us start. Let us start with the first question out here. So here I'm flashing the first question. And remember, what you have to do now is that I'm not going to give you answers out here. I will give you hints. I will give you references of the video, the 2 hours of video. I'll give you the reference. What you need to do is that you need to go and write down the answers in the comment, and don't just write down the answer saying A, B, 1, 2. Write down with the description saying that why is that answer valid and why is that not answer valid. Let us see that the comment section floods with knowledge of river of knowledge out there, right? Okay, so here is first question. You are tasked with deploying Azure virtual machines for your company. So you have a task that you have to take the local machines out there, or you have to take and deploy Azure virtual machines. So you are tasked with deploying Azure virtual machines for your company, and you need to choose a deployment solution. So what should you do? You should make use of PAAS, platform as a service. And this solution, you can see that's a solution, right? You can see that's a solution out here. So do you think that this solution meets the above goal, right? Now here is a hint. Remember, when I taught IAAS, infrastructure as a service, the first thing I talked about is virtual machines. That is a hint, right? So this is question number 1, right? And with that hint, you should be able to answer it is yes or no, right? Now let us take up the second question. So, right, so this is the first question. Just in case if my questions are flipping fast, pause the video, read the question and put down in the comments, right? Let us take the second question. There are 3 statements out here. Let us mark them true or false. Pay as you go is an example of Capex. Well, let me give you a hint. If pay as you go is an example of Capex, then we can say that Harish can be called as Suresh, right? So I think that's pretty simple out there, right? Pay as you go is an example of Capex. So just write down true and false in this sentence. Azure VM instances are example of Opex. Remember, as soon as you go on Azure, is it Opex or is it only Capex? Remember, I have already covered that, right? Third one is pretty simple. I think this you should be able to answer it. Creating your own data center building, bringing your own servers, erecting it, putting all the wires is an example of Capex or an Opex, right? Now let us start with question number three out here. There are again 3 sentences. Mark these sentences as correct or wrong, right? When you're answering the comment down below, you can say question number 1. You don't have to put the whole question. Just say question number 1, this is the answer. Question number 2, this is the answer, right? Okay, mark correct answer. Azure provides flexibility between Capex and Opex, right? Now, over here, I'll give you a hint. You can always go on Azure and you can just go and take a virtual machine and just keep it for yourself if you want it, right? If you want it, okay? So that will give you a hint that what I want to say is that, Azure can be Opex as well as Capex, right? But let me not say that answer is right or wrong. Think about it and give the answer. If you create 2 Azure virtual machines that use a B2S size, remember Azure virtual machines have different sizes, A1, E1, this is a B2S size, right? Each virtual machine, will it generate the same monthly bill? So it is like saying that if you have 2 similar cars, will they consume the same diesel or a petrol? Think about it. No, right? And you know it why. Okay, so that is a hint for the second one. The third sentence, when an Azure virtual machine is stopped, you continue to pay for the storage costs associated to the virtual machine. This is a correct sentence or a wrong sentence. Please write down. But I just want to give a hint for the third sentence. Everything is built on Azure. If you have an IP address that is built, if you have a RAM that is built, right? So that should help you to get this third sentence, right? Question number 4. Let us move ahead. A company is planning on creating several Azure virtual machines, right? Which of the following is the right category which the Azure virtual machine service belongs to? Pretty simple, right? As soon as you say virtual machines, think about it. Is it IAAS, PAAS or SAAS? And that should help you answer this question, right? So which is the category for Azure virtual machines, right? Very simple answer. Question number 5. You plan to migrate a web application to Azure. The web application is accessed by external user. You need to recommend a deployment solution, a cloud deployment solution. Remember, this is not a virtual machine. This is a web application, right? And when you're deploying web application on Azure, right, let me give you a hint, because in the coming up classes, we are going to go and cover how to deploy web applications. But whenever you're deploying web applications, for deploying web application, we use something called as app service, which is my next lecture, which we'll be talking. Now for app service, right, you don't have to know what is a machine at the back. That is a hint for this answer, right? So if you want to deploy a web application, what do you think? Is it a software as a service? I can strike out something, right? How we have that Kaun Banega Crorepati, the millionaire game, or So in that, the first one I will strike it out. Software as a service is for an end user. Now this is more of a developer thing, right? So B, C, D is your option. Think about it. Is it a PAAS? It is a IaaS, or is it a DaaS? Okay, there's a DaaS also, right? DaaS I did not teach you. Must be you can also eliminate that. So between B and C, what is it, right? Question number 6. This question is around high availability. Remember our chapter, high availability, disaster recovery, fault tolerance, scalability, elasticity. I shown a demo, the server went up, then the server went down. Remember that, right? Demo, the last lab. Okay, so when you're implementing software as a service, you are responsible for configuring high availability. So from the below, tell me which of the statements, if the statement is incorrect, select the answer choice that makes the statement correct. So in other words, from A, B, C, D, select a correct statement. No changes needed. Okay, let me strike this off, right? I mean, like, remember, high availability and fault tolerance are not there by default. You have to configure it, right? So the first thing I'm striking off, right? Let me also go and strike off the C also. Installing a SaaS solution is not high availability. And that C does not make sense, you never install SaaS. Software as a service is already present on Azure, so C is gone. So now the hint remains between B and D. And remember, whenever you're putting the comments down below, right, please put an explanation. Don't put B and D. And I know that there are a lot of dumps out there on the sites, which will actually tell you, the answer, but that is no fun, right? Remember, this is just, I want to talk here. By doing certification, it does not mean that you know Azure. Certification is only for testing yourself, right? So think about it. B and D, what do you think, right? This is question number 6. Question number 7, let me take up question number 7 also, right? Okay. Again, this is you can see that A, B, C, D is around elasticity and this and that and fault tolerance, right? So again, refer that chapter. You have an offline network with several servers. You are migrating the same to Azure. So you have several servers and you are migrating the same. You need to recommend a solution that ensures some servers are alive even if the data center goes offline. So some servers are alive even if the data center goes down. Very simple, isn't it? I will strike something for you. Low latency, no way. Low latency means if I send a request, it is slow. So this is not related to to a backup or something, right? Remember, over here what he's saying is that if that data center goes down, some servers still should be available as a backup. What do you think, right? A, B, and C. Question number 8. Your company hosts an inventory application that is used by all the customers of the company. Inventory application means it's a SaaS, right? Because it is for the end users. The inventory application has low usage in the first 3 weeks of each month and very high usage in the last week. So in the first 3 weeks, it has less usage, and then in the high usage in the last week, right? Which benefit of Azure Cloud Service support cost management? So from the below A, B, C, D, E, for this kind of uneven loads, right? Which is a good choice you should choose here, right? This is a pretty simple answer. Remember, I talked about scalability and I said something out there, right? So that is the answer. Right, so that is question number 8. Now question number 9 and 10, I will not be giving of AZ900. If you are interested to see more AZ900 questions, down below is my AZ900 video link. Go through that, right? It will help you to look at the exams from a different perspective, but I have always maintained this fact, right? With certifications, you don't get hands-on knowledge. This course is a hands-on course, please understand. The course which I am taking now is a hands-on course. And if you see the 3 labs which I did at the back, that is more important than certification, right? So knowledge is more important than certification, okay? So the 9 and 10, right, I will give my own questions, right? So the 9th question which I want to ask out is that, who is the lead architect of Azure? Actually, there is no lead architect of Azure, but I will rather say that who is that person, who started with the Azure design and so on, or participated at the initial days in Azure and acted like a lead architect or acted like a lead, whatever it is, right? What is his name, right? Put down in the comments below. And the last one, when was the first version of Azure brought to the market, and when did the first time it came to the market, right? So these are 10 questions out there. Whenever you are writing in the comments, as I've already said, you have to put up an explanation. Leaving the last 2 questions, you have to put up an explanation. Okay, congratulations to everyone. So we are on the final lesson now, right? We have completed this final 2+ hours of course, right? So what are we going to do in the next lesson, right? For the next lesson, I'm going to go and talk about fault domains and update domains, right? If you remember that drop down which is out there, right? In that drop down, we have completed almost everything. We have completed availability zones, we have completed availability set, but there was one more thing, which was out there, which is the fault domain and update domain. We will have a talk about that. And till now, we were only doing IAAS. See, remember, I want to make one point very clear. If you're going on cloud and if you're doing only virtual machines, then you are really not doing cloud, because virtual machine is only pure infrastructure. Mostly on cloud, what you should be doing is PAAS, platform as a service. So in the second lab, I'm going to go and talk also about app services. We'll get introduced to app service, function app, and logic apps. And there we'll talk about the platform as a service, how these things work, right? So next labs are also very interesting. And very quickly, I just want to remind to everyone, right? Remember, if you go and if you share this video, you get that Azure DevOps course for free, right? Second, if you want this second video, right? If you want the second video, please go ahead and hit that 2000 likes mark, and I will release this second video on YouTube for free. I will keep releasing the next videos for free if you keep liking the videos, because it's not that something we want to really just sell and sell. We also want to put it on YouTube, but at the end of the day on YouTube, you guys should encourage us, right? So hope that you like this Azure lessons out here, right? Happy learning and happy job hunting. Thank you. Guys, I have completed 2 hours, right? 2 hours of training. So congratulations to me, because I recorded for 2 hours out there. And congratulations to you that you are still with this lesson out here, right? Now, when these 2 hours were getting completed, right, I was just feeling that, will I be alone on YouTube, right? Is it possible that nobody is listening to me, right? So what I want to know as a teacher, that how many of you guys are till here? If you are till here, right, put down in the comments saying that, hey, like, I'm there over there, for this 2 hours out there, or must be you can tag me on my LinkedIn, right? Because as a teacher, we get encouragement saying that, oh, like students are watching those 2 hours of lesson on YouTube, right? And that's what the teachers want, right? So go ahead, motivate me as a teacher, right? So that I can put more lessons for free out there on YouTube, right? So either you can tag me on my LinkedIn saying that I am there for 2 hours with you, don't worry, right? Or you can put down in the comments also saying that I am there with you for 2 hours. So with that, my team and I know that yes, people are following our lessons and we should be putting these lengthy lessons on YouTube.